I'm barely here. The Grace got on the bus.
Jeff, you need me to sign?
Yeah, that's right. Well, yeah. You got sunglasses?
I do. Anyone?
At least for the next 10 minutes.
That's why I have one. You sat there, you went down there.
Or if not, you just. He's an honorable
John, how was your trip? Good.
We show up in the fire.
We have water over there.
Yeah. I looked at it yesterday.
Yeah.
Outside first.
Over here.
Stops it.
Yeah, I need to understand why that's right.
I'm in the same way.
Do you think it's coming
I
from above? Or you need
Where else would you want to go, that's fine.
Should we get a roofer to look at it?
Sam,
It's a rough slice base.
There is a piece of flesh.
It's a lot. It's set on that.
We need, that guy's gonna show up.
Well, yeah, it's out, it was about something.
Oh, yeah, I think that, I like to learn. Not the white. Where is Benjamin Moore? Yeah.
These aren't. These are the best things that
Well, yeah. Well, we have bathrooms, right? Already. Put a door in on the back. Yeah.
Thank you. Brian's on his way. And
Let's say open
Jack,
up.
spoke to him yesterday, he didn't say it wasn't home. They found, Charlie, yeah,
Hey, what?
they found Charlie's dog.
Where?
No, it wasn't, they found it in the river.
I saw Charlie driving down the road yesterday. I go, where's Charlie? This morning I see a post.
He said it was.
A picture, and I'm like, oh my god. Down the bench, like a kayak park by my new street down in the very end. What closure is this? Why child care?
Anyone? Do you have, you okay with coffee? Yeah, coffee, yeah. Morning. Haven't seen anything, Brown and I reviewed this, the agenda, and I said, there's really not much to add until we can get an estimate of the cost and approach the beach clubs. I think that's our next step.
Yeah, of course, if you want to touch it about the house, then
Okay.
we're managing sure it's other areas. Oh, I'm sure. That's right. Sorry, late.
Yeah.
Ready to go. All right, so we can keep off with our pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This meeting is now called to order. In line with the Borough of Seabright's longstanding policy of open government and in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act, I wish to advise you that adequate notice of this regular scheduled meeting was sent to the Asbury Park Press and other on January 10, 2023. Each instance of the date, time, and location of this meeting were provided in the notice. This meeting is open to the public. Roll call. Councilmembers Bieber. Here. Booker. Here. Catalano. Here. Gorman.
Here.
Keeler. Lamy. Here. And Mayor Kell is here. All right, we'll start off with our remarks from the audience. If there's anybody in person or anybody online who wants to be heard, just please state your name and your address, and the floor is yours, Mr. Governor. Would anybody online be allowed to be heard today? All right, I guess we go right to our discussion items. We'll start off, as always, with Joe Brody, our Borough Administrator, with a capital projects update, please.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple updates on our project. We've hit a bump in the road on our North Beach backflow preventers, check valves, with the state. Greg and I met with the property owners. We thought we resolved the problem amicably, reasonably, and then the state, I'll let Greg speak to it, but the state altered the plans to a certain extent. It does not seem that will be satisfactory to the property owner.
Right, yeah, what happened was when we were in talk last month, the homeowner wanted us to have an extra manhole and change the angle of the line with the discharge point of the pipe.
Instead of going diagonally across the property, bring the pipe up to another manhole and then go straight down the property line. Seemed pretty reasonable.
And the existing pipe situation was it discharged into the water. The end of that pipe has fallen off over the years. The state now has come up with the idea, as of the last plan they submitted, which was a couple months ago, they have chosen to discharge it in the river agreement on the beach. We've not discussed that with the homeowner, but I can tell you, Joe McKee would never accept that. So
He's not gonna-
kind of now another impasse.
The pipe always went out in the water, and he has like a little sandy beach there that I guess he enjoys, reasonable. And now they're gonna discharge onto that with some riprap and, rocks and things like that. It just.
So I'm going to send another letter back to the person that DOT has been speaking with and said the existing condition is to discharge into the water. I'd like to at least keep that intact. And I think we might be able to sell that to the homeowner. But that's the next step we're at. So DOT seems very flexible right now.
This is very flexible or inflexible? Okay.
They just don't want, I think they're of the mind that they think this is over and done, not going to do anything. So we come up with a possible solution. They don't take long to come back and reasons why they don't want to do it.
Yeah, well, it's a reasonable solution. Makes sense. They'll save the project.
It really did make a big difference, in my opinion, to doing what we wanted to do with the extra alignment. And, they came back and said, well, the extra manhole was even more difficult to clean out, which it would, because it's not, I would agree with it was a 90-degree turn, but it's only about a 10-degree turn. So it's not that much of a change in line of the direction of the pipe, so.
So it's the manhole issue, not the extension of the pipe to the water?
It was both. It was both.
Because the first one, manhole sounded more complicated than extending the pipe.
No, not really, because what happened was the pipe came, there was a manhole in the front, and they were gonna run it at an angle straight to the water, which would cut across the property, not along the property line. And he just wanted at the back side of his house to put another manhole and to turn it back so it ran along parallel to the house, in the property line, mostly because he didn't want the thing coming out in the middle of the beach. He wanted it over to the side. He was okay with it still coming out on the beach, but he wanted to discharge it into the water, not with riprap being on the beach.
Understand.
So that's the next step. We'll go back and see what they say. And I think after that, if these guys come back, because this is just the engineering people I'm talking to, if that doesn't work, I think we may have to escalate it politically.
Yeah, let me know how to do that, we'll get to that point. Hopefully, your first attempt works.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah, it'd make it much easier. Because that's what we think. I think the political pressure from them, these guys are, yeah, because they're gonna do what they're told, type of thing, right?
Sure.
Then you know.
Yeah, it seems kind of silly.
Yeah.
After all this time, we were told they had the backflow preventers in their yard. They had already purchased everything, is what we were told early on. And it was held up because of a couple of property owners. So we thought we resolved that problem, and now they came up with something else. So we'll continue to work on that. The street project, the road repaving and some sidewalk and curb is underway right now. It will be completed prior to Memorial Day, the project. The contractor the paving contractor is set to start once the plants, I think the plants are open, but once they start producing more, so that'll be done before the busy season. We continue to proceed towards mediation with the architect on the project. Rich has just sent another letter indicating that we disagree with some of the facts and we want to proceed. So do you know when that'll be scheduled?
No, I don't. I'm waiting for his response to see, if they're still going to be claiming in light of what we put forward, the amount that they say they're due in fees, which doesn't seem to have a basis. And once we get their reply on that, I think that's when we'll be in place with the schedule.
The other items that we're doing, we got prices to do some of the work over in the municipal complex on the steel girders that are rusting and up there. So we're going to try to maybe get a couple more prices because it was over $8,000. So we're going to need another few prices to do that, and then to ultimately fix the soffit that's falling off and allowing herbs in. So we're proceeding. That's all for me.
Thanks, John. Anybody have any questions?
You see that thing on over talking about the architect. The contractor is out of this contract.
That's my understanding here. That's my understanding.
And you just critical, just the time factor in this is incredible. I'm just wondering what audience with the court do they have? I mean, I think the judge would be saying enough already. Is this thing go on another year?
Well, we're not in court. We're heading for a mediation, which is under the contract, the first step. You have to do mediation before you go to court. I mean, to speak about it anymore where we are, I think it's probably better than the closed session. Because it bears on contract.
Rob and I just talked about that. The current contractor is not responsive for the ones downtown. We have two more to do.
We have two more, yes.
Two more to do. They're going to go find someone else to put them in. The contractors, the contractor is just not responsive.
Yeah, we actually reached out to Wapro, sales representative. He's gonna help us out a little bit. He's also gonna come out and inspect the ones that are already done, because we don't think that those are working correctly. So he's gonna come out, and then we're just gonna pay the company for what they did and find another contractor.
And the pavement is New Street?
Peninsula, New, and 3 streets, right? Chris, 3.
I think it's part of Surf and West Front Street there, right? I think we're right there.
I'll email you the complete list, but yeah.
You know, having my own thinking the other day, maybe we could put something on the board that says sort of construction for the downtown for this period of time, so people know what's going on. I mean, they're out, some of these Jacktown run today, but it's full of waterworks.
No, that's it. That's easy to do. That's it.
Anybody else? Any other questions? Good. All right, I guess we'll move on to our public safety updates. We have Chad or Greg, with the gentleman. You guys
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
All right, under the interesting last couple of weeks. We had 323 calls for services. We had the OEM meeting last week. Joe, right? You had that. Yesterday, Jack, we had cell inspections. Passed everything. This was for the juveniles. It was a juvenile justice committee came down, looked at our cells, all perfect, everything worked out well. During the month, we had some DWIs, we had some nasty domestics, we had some stolen vehicles, some wanted people in them. We had some suicidal subjects, we had some resisting arrests, we had some frauds, some bad checks. We had some harassment complaints, we had warrants issued, we had 100 more vehicle stops, we had disorderly persons. And the same thing we did, obviously, we'll talk about the fire if you want to, but we had that, obviously, I'll let Chad get more into it, but it could have been a lot worse than what it was. Everyone did a great job on it. Chad can talk more about that. I did speak to Declan's people in reference to the family that got displaced. I put them in contact. They were satisfied everything was done. They have electric, water, and all utilities back on the harbor shore patch open. But the most important is that no one really got hurt, and the family got in contact with Declan's people, so they were satisfied that any kind of assistance they could have. They got clothes and cards and GoFundMe pages and pretty much everything. That's pretty much what I have just for this report today. But it was kind of a busy month. I wasn't really expecting some of the stuff that we had, but you never know.
Yeah, thanks. It was busy Friday too, so thanks. I mean, all the departments again. I guys did a great job on Friday with fire. And really, it's a good location if you're gonna have one, of course. It's right across the street, but all the really guys.
The gym actually right there, so we ran right in and it was.
Yeah, you're getting people out there.
It was good, but anyway, that's all I have. And so for executive session.
Chief, any trends at the county or within Seabright on stolen cars or attempts?
Well, there's a lot of stolen cars. The one thing that's really is what's been helping us a lot, it's I don't know what's good or bad, is there's so many of these plate readers around the area now that all of a sudden you're getting a call from Long Beach, their plate readers got to hit someone going northbound of the Seabright. This one's ready to hit them coming southbound of the Seabright. So all of a sudden you're getting a call on the radio that there's the call right there. So that's what's happening a little bit more, but I don't think the trends haven't gone down. I think the towns out west are getting hit a lot harder, Marlboro and out, and obviously Fairbanks folks get hit, but most of it is the thieves are, they're not, all they do is look for fobs. They don't have special gadgets and stuff, they're just looking for fobs, you're going to people's houses looking for fobs.
Thanks.
That's it.
Anybody have any questions for Greg?
Morning.
The month of February, March, only 21 calls, which is about average for all season. Brings us to about 52 calls for a year. You should start seeing an influx of the seasonal resolutions. You get the seasonals up. You want to get them in place by May 1. So we can get them trained. We have their training, which is an in-house thing. We've got the first weekend of May. So you'll start seeing those resolutions come across soon. I'll talk about the Baines fire in a second. Prior to that, though, the Friday before that, we actually went to a fire over in Rumson. It was a large-scale house where there was fire basement and the guys at very well. I was actually in Disney. It was magical. So it was very comforting, but the guys were able to do what they had to do even without me being there. Charlie was working too, so we were there. So they actually prevented a pretty significant loss over there at Rumson. that week before. Then obviously we had Baines Fire. Baines Fire, I've been thinking about that building catching fire since I was young. You know, it's always been that and the old schoolhouse before the demolition. That was always the two places in town that we was that concerned. And I always ran that building through my head ever since I became fire chief back in 2010. And the guys did exactly what I expected them to do. It's a true testament of the program that we have, having the guys in the firehouse, being able to just pull out quickly and do what they have to do. And like Chief Friedman said, it was really a collaborative effort. All the departments, including Rob, Public Works, everyone worked together. EMS was there, they took care of a couple patients, transported one to the hospital. Just for minor smoke, he was released within an hour or two. Very minor damage, it was just one apartment. We were able to mitigate it with about 100 gallons of water, which is why we were able to save a lot downstairs at Baines.
The fire that big, too, the fire come out the windows.
You guys are great, and I'm sure you guys all saw the videos circulating on social media. You guys are great, so I can't say anything more to them. I had 4 guys in the fires out there, and they did exactly what they're.
Yeah, nothing too messy because everyone here responded correctly. Police, fire, everyone exit upwards. But just your team's response to Robinson, it's great skill mutually.
Yeah, it was awesome. Like I said, and I got a video of that, and I was listening to it down in Disney. And the kids did great. We had a good group of kids right now. So keep pushing that wall.
Yeah, I guess you can trigger me. I don't know if there are any recommendations you can make to that building owner about making it safer.
That's a whole Tommy.
Yeah,
I'm not touching that.
It is. I think it's correct. I had like a low wind day.
Yeah,
It was a winter day, like last few days. Who knows?
I think the biggest thing that saved us with wind on that day was it was actually a northeast wind. So it was pushing the fire back towards them, which enabled them to come out those windows.
Yeah.
And kind of just pushed the fire right out those side windows, which kind of contained it to just really that 1-2 room area within the apartment. So
It was electrical.
the preliminary cause, they can't rule out the refrigerator. It was pretty clear and evident the origin cause of the fire was the refrigerator. So,
Thanks to all you guys. You really did a great job, really.
Well done.
I know,
I stopped over and talked to them.
That-
Very appreciative.
that night, when I sat all them down and when we went over it, I explained to them how they really changed the history of Seabright. Because if we would have lost that building, I think that would have been a pretty significant loss to the town. So,
The fact that you did it with 100 gallons and
Oh, yeah.
it would have happened if it was.
yeah, and you can see it. He only had that line open. If you watch the video, for about a minute, and he knocked out 2 rooms of fire. They're good. The kids we have are good.
What next step can we make? Because your comment that you've been worried about that building since.
It's just one of the old big buildings in town.
Yeah, so is there something preventative where we do an analysis if when?
well, Chad just said we have to go through Tom Hagen.
And Tom's great at what he does.
Yeah.
So if they're,
Okay. National definitely do a review of things we did to do. Because it's an old, tinder box.
so is that the old school that were always my 2 biggest concerns?
Yeah.
While we're on the subject, Tom, I've been spending some time with Tom on short-term rental, and he's asking the council to consider a potential ordinance around fire pits. If somebody constructs it, it's in the building plan, it's one issue. He said we have fire pits in town, and people just have open burn.
More of a nuisance thing.
Yes.
Especially if
You mean on private property or on a beach?
On private property.
Okay.
And his concern is exactly what you're asking, is if somebody doesn't control it appropriately, not only could it be a nuisance, but if something's on fire downtown, there should be a major issue. So Chief and I talked about it briefly, has not had any major issues, but the mayor, Tom's asking us to consider it.
We probably do 5 a year, maybe. And it's usually neighbors complaining about smoke.
Yeah.
But it's there. I mean, that's just what we get called. That's not saying that there isn't other problems.
Yeah, we have no ordinance in place right now to cover that, and take a look at whether or not it's appropriate.
Yeah.
I don't know if it is.
So usually what we do, we reference the state side of it. If there is a state administrative code.
Yeah, they gave me a copy of.
Yeah, so you probably, the same sheet would probably answer the resident. Probably what you have.
Yeah, I participated in a few myself over the years. Many rivers with small backyards do it. And also, I mean, a lot of people are involved, but also, Brett, Jim, thanks again, I guess. Everyone was really right away.
There's a guy who works in the hardware store who was up there. I have his information.
Yeah, I know you're all shy of folk, but I think the next council meeting, I spoke to Joe about it. We'd like to
He's
clarify
the guy
everybody.
was up there.
Yes, and what you guys, do, and this is what you do, but we shouldn't take it for granted that, everyone else trying to get, that's trying to get, right, that's an amazing, dynamic, and you be commended, for stepping up when we need you, and always do, so we appreciate it.
Let's see. Next one's just a FYI that Joe said he can speak briefly about the wastewater treatment, bonding that's required.
We've known this for a while, that this is coming. The Two Rivers is renovating, adding, and Jack attended some of the meetings early on about this. That was probably a couple of years ago, wasn't it, Jack? It's been a little while, but it's a large undertaking for Two Rivers. They believe their debt will be stable. Some debt's dropped off for them, they've amortized but it is a $70 million project or something thereabouts. So it has potential to impact our rates at some point in the future. And we've known about it for a long time. We kind of hopefully prepared for it. You did some increases because of the cost going up, and this was one of them. But just wanted you to know that you probably read about it. It's a big project here in Monmouth County, one of the bigger ones. So I just put that on as a point of information for you guys.
Any preliminary estimates, Joe, for potential impacts?
No, they're saying it's going to be de minimis because they've dropped off debt over the last couple of years, and they've maintained their rate to try to build up some capital funding over there. So I don't know. They're thinking no,
Okay.
but who knows during the the $70 million construction project what's going to happen. And Jack, you attended those meetings, didn't you?
Yeah. Not all, but, yes, I didn't think it would be this long. It's probably the biggest thing in the
We were over there for a walkthrough a couple years ago, John. Jack, I don't know who else was there with us when we walked through. Jeff, I don't believe you were, but I talked to Heather and I talked to Erwin. We may try to set up another one to especially in light of this, we can go over, see their operation, wait till it gets a little warmer out because you're walking around the whole plant. So I'll try to set that up for anybody that would like to come. They're very accommodating.
Nothing like a sewer tour.
There you go.
Let's not call this summer. Oh, good, I go now.
Yes, you're right, Jack. It's 140. That's where everything ends up.
All right, next one. The next one's been, we've been waiting on this one, so we're gonna have an RFP for the Hatter to review. We'll cover this in the executive session today, we'll begin with our attorneys and our planner have prepared it so that we can, everybody will go over it and hopefully a little back and forth, and then eventually go out for a public request proposal from the CEO, what we done with the building. But just wanted to make everyone aware publicly, but then we're gonna discuss it first off in the executive session. All right, next up, this is another one of those ongoing conversations, the 5G ordinance right-of-way agreements. And again, I had our attorney, Rich, will speak to this today, but it's just same as really was on the last agenda also. It's been kind of changes, just how we proceed, whether it was kind of a Verizon versus private type of approach here for the locating. But Rich, you want to speak to this one?
I certainly do, Mayor, but as I mentioned in my email, since we're
exactly.
I thought it was more appropriate.
Okay, sorry. To be continued in executive session. Next is a pretty simple website, an electronic sign policy. It's a pretty standard one. The only thing I read very basically read through, if you haven't already, just to kind of set the protocol for how we post public comments on signage. I mean, it might help just at least say specifically where or how somebody can submit something. It says you're submitted in writing, but maybe just identify exactly to decide that.
I think it either should come to the clerk's office or my office, either or, the request to put something up on the sign. We just wanted to kind of lay it out now that it's, we're getting better at it, but there's been some questions. We've all said, well, what can go on there and we can't. We're just trying to narrow it a little bit and make sure it's not political or religious in nature and those kind of things. So we can tweak it if we need to, but we just wanted it out there because there's been some questions. And Heather brought it to our attention, and we thought it was good to revise our old policy to include it.
Any questions or any comments? Pretty straightforward.
It'll avoid what's happening on the beach, all the social kind of communication. Just being integrated and pushing the information out, keeping the community involved.
That's it. The next one's another ongoing conversation we've had about rentals for both this building and the old Borough Hall. There's a list in your agenda to go through it. Again, it's just a matter of whether to establish the fees and some of the rules of the road for renting. Discuss this potential scheduling issues, especially this building. But just an open discussion on that. See if we can find a proceed.
We're getting more and more active, especially over in the other, the gym area. More and more people are using it. We've had some requests from people out of town to use it. We really think we should, at this point, reserve for our residents. We know that the residents are playing pickleball with other people that maybe not in town, but ultimately it's kind of difficult at this point to reserve the space for non-residents at this point. We have others that want to use it, and Don has been working with them. It sounds onerous, a $1 million policy, but Don tells me it only costs about $100 to hold harmless, and it really sounds like a lot, but at the end of the day, it's not very expensive, but we need that certain amount of liability insurance over there for people to use it.
And our goal, I think, is the same as it was years ago before we built this building, is if we can get, multiple use out of all these buildings, without interfering with any of our operations, especially also about each year or council planning board meetings. But really, I think it's something we should just do, and we've talked about it for a few years, but haven't really implemented anything. I think out of fear for what could go wrong, or are we pricing it right? I would suggest just reviewing one last time, implementing it, and worst case, there's nothing going to be catastrophic in here. If we charge too little, too much, we could always revise it pretty easily. So I would recommend.
Yeah, I think if you're doing a usage of the building, like not, hey, I'm coming in from out from on the beach to play pickleball, or I'm not renting the space, it should cover the cleaning costs, right? Like, I don't think we should be.
And maybe,
So that, to me, that's kind of like the minimum, especially when you're looking at like school organizations or league style, like the nonprofits. I think we just want to kind of cover our basics.
Yeah, honestly, this conversation we had this, 2 years ago?
Okay.
We had the same conversation a year ago. That's my point. Like, I agree with you.
Yeah.
We should cover our costs, but again, if we under or overshoot on something, it's not the end of the world. I'm going to swing over the course of a year, like probably $1,000.
Yeah.
But it's good. I think we do get more use out of these buildings.
But I think the space is in demand, so as quickly as we can fix a couple of components like the wall, really let the community take advantage of the buildings that we have. Are we also talking about this space too? Or is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was probably, that's it.
I did go through that recommendation, and everything seemed good to me. The only one that seemed really strange was the potential of residents using this room for $50 for a party. I know there's a $200 deposit, right, that they won't get back if they don't care, but to Heather's point, if you can have a party in this room for $50, you're gonna have a lot of parties.
Yeah, yeah.
And my concern is that could get out of control, number one, and number two, any potential damage or cleaning or other things that would take place. So we're looking through those documents, it seems strange to me, especially.
Yeah, I think that was something that was definitely low. That's much lower than what it was. We had a number of years ago, it was almost too high. Like, it was up to like $5 and.
I mean, any place you go, I think 200 is almost like a.
Yeah, I mean, I think for this building in particular, again, this is never intended to be something that paid out our bonds or our debt. But it was always meant to be like slightly profitable.
Yeah.
Just because this is a good business plan to have.
Well, we're gonna have to replace chairs and tables and things like that
We'll
eventually.
have to be moved in and out.
Yeah, that's
All the time, that's what we need.
We try not to, but
We
you're
don't
right.
know this is it now either, that's, you know, it's tough.
So Joe, the mayor said we should all take a look at it, and who do we talk to about providing our input or recommendation?
Just shoot me an email and yes.
Okay.
And let's copy Chris on it and
What?
email for any changes, anything they want. Just shoot us an email. We'll coordinate it and we want to get started because we have had this on the agenda for a number of years. Now, COVID held us up a little bit. We were talking about sanitizing and all that other stuff during that period of time. You know, if somebody wanted to use it, you have to sanitize the room after. But that held us up a bit. But you know, I agree with you that it's been on a long time.
Yeah, I would say just take it off. One last review, and I recommend trying to move forward for the year.
Second question, say league style, what's league style?
Bitty basketball league, or you know, if somebody wants a pickleball league or things like that. If it's a group, it's a number of teams, things like that come here, or specifically over there. That's what that meant.
So it's just on that one, it's just a once in a while, it's 25, they're using regularly 75 a month.
You know what's also confusing? A lot of people, call and then, rec has some program for pickleball, so if they're from Seabright, they just don't use it. Instead they're part of the rec. So they don't charge anything. So
Sure.
who gets charged then?
Or people that just want to come in and,
Like, what if Seabright people want to have a league? Do they have to pay?
I would think so. I think a league is a little more than, you know, two people going in there and hitting the
A
ball.
lot of the Seabright people have like 3 or 4 days a week booked. Is that not part of the league?
I'm an outsider on this, and I'm not trying to be critical, but it feels like it needs some structure.
And the point being, we've tried the structure in the past, and we've not gotten past that, you know, we're trying to cover every base, and we really can't, we're just kind of seeing how it goes right now. And you can change it at any time, I don't mean to be wishy-washy on it, but if we're trying to cover every, you know, is it are they serve, you know, up here, we got into, are they gonna serve alcohol, are they not serving alcohol, and are they bringing in catering, and if they're not bringing in catering, it should be different. It was just, and that's why nobody's using it.
I think part of this is the danger of analysis paralysis, right? And doing stuff. But I think it's important that we have a base level or a baseline, be able to move forward and then start moving forward. Because as we do, I think what we'll find is there are things you got to tweak, right? Like the use of this room, or a lot of rooms like this, right? So there aren't, and because of that, you know, I think that we have, you know, an opportunity to have the, you know, the fee for this building, this space be a little higher, but not a profit center, right, necessarily. But I wouldn't do that. But I think that, you know, I think the structure that we have to offer comments and feedback, et cetera, the email is good. Come back at a future meeting and then make a decision moving forward. So
I'm with you.
I think you put a framework in place, you get it mostly right, not perfect, and then you fix it over time.
Yep.
Yeah, there's no better way to find what's wrong than kicking it off. All right, thanks, guys. All right, the next one, Earl will be speaking to this, I believe, but it's basically, I think this stems from the downtown, 2 residents who had asked about our residential parking and how we can tweak it possibly, but Earl, you want to speak?
Happy to be there, thank you. So we all know downtown parking is a challenge. And the ordinance says that each of the households permitted to have 2 resident parking permits, that's it. Regardless of the number of people, whether or not they rent the property, it's 2 per household. And the situation is obviously very challenging for the people in town. Based on resident input, the mayor asked the group to be formed. I volunteered to lead that group. We have not held our first meeting yet, but we're going to look at assessing the challenge, any potential improvements going forward. It's a very difficult thing to solve. But my suggestion who would be on that committee or that group would be Joe, the police department, myself, and I'm looking for volunteers, other council members that you'd like to be part. That would be great. If anybody else would like to be part of that, please let me know, and I will schedule a meeting. And then, Mayor, one thing I'd be interested in is whether or not we want to have residents as part of that group.
Yeah, if you want to add residents, if you want to have it, you know, as long as it be done like a time manner and so forth. Again, the residents are just, you know, pretty
Strong.
We've heard, yeah, there are a lot of strong opinions and a lot of them are contradictory too, because we've all heard the residents get more apartment for their own situation. So
Yeah, I think
I wish you luck.
Just as we saw with the cannabis review, I think having some input from the residents could be helpful. We all understand it's a difficult problem to fix. The other thing I'll mention is as part of the review of the Riverfront project, right now it's presently planned to have 15 public parking spots. And there's a question about whether or not people that live in that community when it gets built, the pavement project, can park in the public parking spots. Will the Riverfront people that live there get resident parking permits? Because if they do, that would put greater stress on what we already have as a stressful situation.
So that's a good question, just nothing on a tangent, but they do have more apartment.
They do.
Yes.
They do. And no decision was made, and I was asked at the planning board meeting, because I sit on the council and on the planning board, point blank, are you going to allow people who live in the pavement project to get resident parking decals? I said, that is not my decision, that is the council's decision, and we will bring that into a discussion, which I think could be part of this group. So if Joe and Heather and the chief and anybody else would like to participate in that, please let me know. I will get a meeting scheduled and we'll talk about it.
Just real quick, I'd like to get this meeting done sooner than later because it's almost April and I start ordering parking passes, business passes.
Next week.
Yeah, next week would be great. Good. We have, and yeah, you know my concern, but yeah, it's sooner than later.
Yeah, there's not necessarily any easy answer to this problem.
There's not.
And there's no parking garage to be built in the near term or anything like that. So I think it's appropriate to review it, discuss it, and do the best we can to respond.
Yeah, because exactly, because the part right now, it doesn't matter if you change the ban or not, you're gonna have a lot of complaints this year, it doesn't matter what happens, because we just don't have a ban in town. But what we have in place right now was the end result of, you know, probably a slow meander, a couple decades of discussion and analysis. So, you know, what the plan we have in place is not an accident, you know, so it's agreed. And I mentioned last time, it's like, I look at this as a huge dominoes, like a slight change to this plan, the parking, the downtown, it's gonna have a huge impact, for better or worse.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing that's, you really don't have too many options.
And I guess one other thing, Joe, I forgot to ask you when you were doing the brief is where do we stand on getting approval for the parking where the old school was as a result of the pavement?
You know, the plot thickens. Aldo passed away, unbeknownst to us. So that's kind of why I didn't get a call back right away. I talked to his secretary. Aldo, not funny, he passed away a while back. We were unaware of that. It's in, they have the administrator of the will that is going to start marketing the property. We just found out this week. So she, being Aldo's secretary, was going to get in touch with the administrator to see if it's going to be a longer process. Maybe we can use it this season, but I wouldn't count on it as a long-term fix to our problem downtown. So I haven't gotten a call yet. I just talked to her on Tuesday and found out that he had passed a little while ago, and that the property is going to be remarketed now.
Joe, do we know, I'm in touch with the Dentals group, whether or not we are not going to be able to use that area this summer?
I spoke to Mike Conti. He didn't seem, he said no, but not to say he wouldn't do it, but we could probably put something together. I don't know the people from Dental, I don't know.
We have Bill Wolf and I have a phone conference with them. I think it's either tomorrow or Monday. They gave us some dates, and I'll bring that up and have an answer.
Yeah.
Like what are they gonna do first, second, third? You know, they have a lot of demolition to do on a lot of the properties that they still have and own downtown. That would be the likely starting point. And this property is clean, but I would think the first thing that, after the demolition, is gonna be bulkhead.
As the chief said, the summer's coming quick. It would be good if we could get a determination of Ben Holtz's position on this, because if we can get another year, I think that would help.
Yeah, we will.
Good.
Okay.
Okay, so we'll hold a meeting on this, and if anybody else wants to participate, Heather, thank you. We'll get it set for next week.
All right, thanks, guys. All right, the next one, Joe, do you have anything on the beach ordinance?
I got it.
Oh, you do, okay.
Yeah, I do.
Oh, is this, okay, I wasn't sure what this was for.
Yeah, so we, Mayor, we had asked to put together a group to take a look at each ordinance enforcement. Part of it was driven by the complaint of smoking, but obviously the beach ordinance and public space enforcement relates to smoking, drinking of alcohol, and dogs in places they're not supposed to be in at certain times during the year. So we kicked it off. We had our first meeting, which was a good meeting. The invitees were Heather, Joe, Rich was with us also, the chief was with us, Jim McHugh was with us, and Sam was invited, couldn't make it, but we'll be at the next one. So the group got together, we held a meeting on February 16th, and we asked basically 3 questions. What have we done in the past? How have we handled the situation? To take a look back to understand how that's gone. The second one is it felt that this is significant enough issue in town that it's worthy of taking additional enforcement action? And then the third question was, if it is worthy of additional enforcement, what would that look like? How would we propose doing that? So we got into a pretty spirited discussion, because we all know doing this is not fun. It's challenging, and it puts strain on resources, and it also addresses the responsibilities of Don Klein's beach team, the chief and his team, and dealing with this overall. So we went off and took a couple actions. People are reviewing a couple things right now, and I'd like to get the group back together again that I just described, but I would like to add Don Klein, and I did have a conversation about this. I see a very potential positive outcome here. First of all, we don't want to be overbearing, but we have an ordinance in place and we want to enforce it. So I think it will be, if we decide to do this, and this will be a council decision with the input from the beach and the police department leadership, is sort of a two-pronged approach where Don and his team would step up some activities which would ultimately potentially draw in the police department. Brett has shared some thoughts on how to handle that. Propose that the group get together again and have one more meeting with a recommendation in place, bring it back to the council for discussion and consideration, and then agree to go ahead and do it. And we will be well in advance of the summer rush if we agree to do something different. We are a little bit concerned. The cannabis situation is a bit unique, because as we know, you cannot approach somebody using cannabis, because that's not permissible for the Attorney General. But it is also a tobacco substance of some kind which is banned from the beach. And we did get quite a bit of this early on cannabis community review work that we did do last year. So we've made good progress. I think we've got some ideas that have been floated. I think there's a potential solution. In about 2 weeks, we should have another meeting completed and be ready to make a recommendation to the council.
Sounds like a plan.
Question, is the, I guess you're not at the point where you're ready to make recommendations yet.
No.
You know, this is obviously a subject that's that's got some prickliness to it as far as how we enforce and I'm just trying to think ahead. Okay, we have rules in place. We're going to try to do more. We're going to do more of these, and then how does that process work? What does enforcement look like? What is So I'm as the rest of them, I'm assuming are eager to kind of hear, given all the set of the facts here, how are we going to make this work where it actually works and is having the desired effect, considering the resources and everything else, right? So I look forward to hearing more about it.
Yep, very good. Yeah, I'm not going to presume what the outcome's going to be, because I think it's kind of agreed that it is a resource challenge. We will need to do something different, and we want to get understanding, concurrence, and support to do that before we make a recommendation. Okay.
All right, thanks, guys. Up to the DOT mid-block crosswalk update. I know we discussed this at the last meeting. It is, I think everyone knows what it is. It was in your packet again. Basically, results from engineering. They studied a number of towns, state, see representative on that, but are we going to speak this?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to do that. So at the last council meeting, I gave a brief update on this, and I'm not on the safety committee, but I happened to be at the meeting. Joe and Jack had to be somewhere else at the beginning of the meeting, so I kind of took all the notes. So I'm going to repeat a little bit, but a couple of you were not here at the last meeting. So if you haven't had a chance to go through the package that was provided by DOT, I strongly recommend you do that, because it was actually a very good package, and it was well presented and comprehensive. As part of that, they've identified 5 mid-block crossings to be included in the state-funded safety program, 100% paid for by the state with no matching. And there are 5 mid-block crossings that would be affected by that in the town. They identified those to us. I'll really quickly go through them. One of them is the South Beach by Sunrise Way. That's the most southern one. The second one is at Anchorage Park. The third is at Grand Point. The fourth is at the Beach Walk Hotel. And the fifth is at North Beach, right by where the K used to be. And those are considered mid-block crossings, which are viewed as higher risk compared to an intersection crossing. We have several crosswalks that are at intersections between 2 roads, and the DOT, for one reason or another, assume them to be less of a risk because there is already a crossing that's taking place there. Whether or not we agree with that, that's another issue. I personally had some concern with that, but that's beside the point. They view those 5 to be firm plans to go forward and completely paid for by the state. And in order for that to happen, there are 3 things that have to occur. Number 1, the town has to pass a resolution approving the introduction of those crosswalks, which I think should be fairly straightforward. The second is they would complete the final design of these crosswalks and review them with us, and that will look to be completed by 2024. And the third thing, and this was the painful part of it, is they would expect construction to begin in 2026 to 2027, and not before. Now, something is better than nothing. We'd like it to be sooner than that, but obviously fully state funded, part of a much bigger program, understand why this stuff takes time. So that's very good news in my mind. The interesting wrinkle in all of this is there were 2 crosswalks at the beach clubs, and I think we should avoid the sands, right? Both of which are extremely high traffic areas because of the parking lots across the street that are not on this list. And the reason they're not on this list is they were part of an earlier project that were called expedited crosswalks. And because it was not done with this program that I just described, it was done in advance of it, they are firmly on the books at a time before the state was going to provide 100% payment for this through the safety program. So those 2 that were on the expedited list had to be done on a cost share basis. 75% by the state, 25% by somebody else. And the 2 beach clubs have previously agreed to pay their share of the cost of those crosswalks. The estimated per crosswalk cost is on the order of about $40,000. But we could not get that completely confirmed at the meeting. In fact, the DOT rep threw out 2 numbers in the same meeting and wasn't sure which one was right. One that she threw out was $250,000. The other one she threw out was $40,000.
Did they get it right?
So what has happened is when the number was 40,000 and these were expedited crosswalks, that would have cost each of the beach clubs on the order of $5,000 to $10,000 each. 40,000 is considered as a higher estimate. They agreed to pay for that cost. What has happened since then is the cost estimates have been all over the place, and they have retracted their willingness to pay for their 25%, which has effectively put those expedited ones that we need now, which DOT claims could be done this year, on pause until we sort out cost sharing. So what we did at the meeting, and I apologize for being long-winded, what we did at the meeting is we asked DOT, please go back, confirm the number. If it's 40,000 or less, we, Joe, will engage with the beach club owners to let them know that their share is relatively small, because if it's $5,000 or $10,000, we have every belief that they would think that's worth it. If it's 25% of $250,000, they may say it's not worth it. So the action right now sits with DOT to let us know what that projected cost is. I asked them once, I asked them twice, I haven't got anything back yet.
Maybe I give her a reminder.
I sent her another note. Did you saw that?
Yeah, I would think they'd have to have something a little more accurate. That is kind of absurd, having a range like that.
Yes. Now, I'll tell you this, in my mind, there's a couple other very positive things here. First of all, there are two types of signs. One type just has the flashes on each side that interact with each other. You press the button and they flash, and it's solar powered, and they're really nice. You see them in towns all around here. The second type is the one that's much more illuminating, much more warning oriented, and that has something that goes off across the top of the road. They are proposing to make the most southern one because you're coming into town, and the one at Anchorage to be the one that goes over the top, because they see them as the two higher risk ones. We asked at the meeting, and Jack has been very passionate about this. In all of this, we're missing one of the most important ones of all, and that's the one coming off the bridge. And they have said that is not included in their list. So, Mayor, just a thought, when we get the numbers correct, down the road, we may see whether or not there's something that we think should be done up there. And if the number was $35,000,
We still have to get approval from DOT.
agreed. But if they weren't willing to pay for it, right, because I agree with Jack and the safety committee that that is a very high-risk area for us. So right now, the ball sits with DOT to come back with a number. When we get a number in cost share, Joe's going to talk to the beach clubs, get them to reconfirm their commitment, and we're going to expedite the expedited ones, and hopefully get them done this year.
Sounds good?
So
That's progress.
That's that.
Thanks, sir.
Just one thing that I said, from the earlier, the current, the photos that you gave us were different locations of the spots. So I just want to fill in and just confirm the actual location. It's on one photograph, we're down here by the side street, and then it's here, and up in North Beach, they showed an area that's not the motel.
Is this the most recent one that was in the past?
This is the one that I think we're going with. This is the one that's most recent.
We just got to make sure, we'll do it offline, Jack, but we got to make sure it matches this one, because they were pretty firm about the placement.
Okay.
We can do that.
I'll work with them.
Sounds good.
And hopefully we consider the one by Mountains Bridge.
Yeah.
That before traffic backs up, that obviously is the most dangerous spot. That little zone in between where foot traffic and it's not fully backed up yet.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if that's the traffic coming in Wazoo to see right when it does, but before that point, cars moving down there.
We asked them and implored them, that was one of the primary ones that they should be considering. And they said, the ones chosen are the ones chosen.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the north end, we walked it with them a couple years ago. And they thought that was out of town. They didn't realize that Seaway went all the way up past the bridge.
And the second jetty poses some other problems when they're busy in the summer. They valet park, people pull in, they stop the car, they get out of the car. If somebody, it's a lot happening.
It's a disaster when it happens. And if we need to exercise whatever contacts we have, whatever hopefully we can get to the policy makers, then we should be looking at that. And not that we haven't already, that's a problem. So, I understand the career folks inside DOT are making the decision, but, this may be one that we change. So.
And as Jack and I spoke, we need to get them down here. When they're looking at a map, it's just not the same as being there.
I think that's part of the desk jockey portion of this job. Even if they're engineers or whatever, it doesn't matter. Like, I think that being on site, at those appointed times, at work times and price like that, makes more sense than just have a map. I agree completely.
That was a frustrating point when we heard it was a Zoom meeting. They wanted to meet with us, and it's like, oh, that's fantastic. Oh, we're gonna do it over Zoom. It's like, well, that's entirely
I
like.
should just sit your desk up at the intersection or.
Right, exactly. Here I am standing.
Joe, we got to get them here on Saturday in July.
Yep.
All right, so
We're never actually able to get there.
speaking of the state, the next one's a pretty simple correspondence you all saw. In a recent meeting, we had a discussion about the cow. We were talking about that they made it clear that they wanted to have another cylinder on wheels in town. We used to have one here, for those who weren't here, prior to having our monopole here. So we had our municipal parking lot. I thought the last discussion was that they might reconsider adding them here, which seems like unnecessary and a bit of redundancy. So they located a site coming off the same Highlands Bridge there. It's state property. So they're going to, I believe, put the cow right there. So improves the coverage, especially summertime. Doesn't really impact us that much, but just as an FYI really from them that That's the location it shows, which is further away from this permanent pole, and then it's gonna be right there by the Highlands Ridge.
People will slow down and look at it.
Yeah, it's not traffic.
All the way to San Diego.
You put flags or something. But this way, too, we don't lose any traffic spots or have it, it'd be ridiculous having air conditioning so much. That's all that is. Next one actually will come up, Ryan Rupp here, Deputy Coordinator for OEM, will be at our next meeting to discuss some modifications to our existing emergency management plan. So
Which is huge. Why is this thing?
it is, but luckily all the changes are not reflected in there.
Yeah.
It's just some changes.
You get it?
Give summary.
We got a summary late yesterday, I printed out a few copies, anyone wants to see it, but, I emailed it to you.
Yes.
But apparently, the last update, which was done by the previous employee, which I won't mention, they used Atlantic Highlands, base, and it didn't change, so ours says, like, our selling order at Highlands, and think like 500 pages of, he has to literally read it every word to make sure it's.
There are some interesting things in
But
there.
the state did accept it the last time, so. It doesn't really matter what it says. So,
All right, so that's it. Anyway, Ron will be here at the next meeting
that's why it's saying.
to present, answer any questions. Let's see, we have obviously two upcoming resolutions listed there. And,
Mayor, if I might, with respect to the budget introduction, it's my intention to get the finance committee together ahead of that, to consider increase from a policy perspective, what we would like to see, and as always, I think you've done a great job. So letting you know that there may be some further discussion that comes out of that committee.
all right. Sounds good. All right, we do have an executive session. Before we go into that, it's in the bottom of the agenda. Jack has arranged a power stretcher demonstration over at Firehouse after all meetings conclude. So just want to make that, this is our small audience around. So I just want to let everyone know that, that you can feel free to stop by the Firehouse after